unfortunately, I couldn't get it to go. It got wet. You know, them Civil War people back in them times, they had to be pretty doggone tough, didn't they? Because this is just a small example on a day like this, and they lived in tents all winter long, so you do get a little sense of appreciation on a day like this. My name's Andrew Loeffler, but you can just call me Andy. As you can see on my headstone, I was born in 1835. I was blessed with a long life, living past my 91st birthday. But old age caught up with me, and I died in my home here in Warsaw, 1926. Beside me is my loving wife, Sarah, and Sarah bore me 9 children, 7 daughters and 2 sons. Sarah took it pretty hard when one of them boys died in infancy. And I understand my male line still exists today here in this area. My son William was the one that survived, and they tell me that there's a young man out there by the name of Andy still alive today. And I tell you what makes an old veteran proud. And Andy, if you're out there, God bless you and I love you. I was born in Baden, Germany. Our country was being invaded by Russians. Myself and many others from my family and friends alike set out to this new land called America. There was the promise of a good life, and what the heck, I wanted out of there anyway. I set sail for this new settled land west of the Mississippi called Iowa. I tell you what, guys, it was some of the finest black dirt I ever stuck a spade in. I'm proud to call myself a farmer. That's what I did when I was in Germany. Huge role in volunteers. Over 72,000 volunteered to fight for the Civil War, and they were all from Iowa. And many of them were all just immigrants, just like me, who barely spoke English. But we felt a strong sense of duty, and we were proud to fight. The 17th consisted of 935 men when we mustered into the service. Our first battle would be Iuka, Mississippi. Then on to Corinth. We fought at Champion Hill, Chattanooga, Lookout Mountain. I was under Grant's command with the Army of the Tennessee when Vicksburg surrendered. When it come into March of '64, we had served our time, and every boy from the Iowa 17th re-enlisted. I have my re-enlistment papers here with us today, a copy, I should say. The whole company re-enlisted. We were promised a 30-day furlough, but as Sherman's campaign started, they needed every man. They placed the 17th in a little town called Tilton, Georgia, and that's the town I'll never forget. It was happening of interest, and that day was the 13th. Over the horizon come riding General Jeb Stuart with the Confederacy, advancing on our little blockade. Our defense consisted of a blockhouse that would hold 70 men, and the rest of us were outside in trenches. General Stuart demanded total surrender, and he accompanied with the threat to completely massacre our garrison if we did not. My Colonel Archer's reply to him was, "You want me and my men?" He says, "You come and take us." They pointed 11 cannons at us, bombed and blasted, and before we knew it, there was nothing left of the little blockhouse but splinters. They just shot it to smithereens. For 7 long hours we tried to hold our ground. We ran completely out of ammunition. Colonel Archer had no choice but to surrender. Several of the men from the Iowa 7th escaped capture, but I was one of 300 that did not. Georgia. This stockade was built to hold 10,000 men, but by the time I got there in October of 1864, 33,000 were confined in its 26-acre walls. Conditions of the camp continued to deteriorate as men suffered from malnutrition and disease. We were completely exposed to the elements, for all we were provided for with was rags for tents. Conditions were miserable enough, and the prisoners were going through such times that there was a group called the Raiders. They were people just like us, but these Raiders would steal anything of value. They'd take your food, anything they could. They'd rob you and steal from you. Finally, we had no choice, and we formed another group of men called the Regulators to keep them boys in line. And we had our own court system. If them boys were found guilty, we put them in ball and chain. We hung 6 of them rascals. Many of the men had health issues that would last for years and years after the war was over from Andersonville, but I was truly blessed, for no lasting effects did I suffer from my time served. After the war, Sarah and I settled right here in Hancock County. I bought a little farm near Southern Illinois, and I farmed and worked that land for 45 years. In 1911, I retired from farming and moved to Warsaw and lived there until my death. And I got to say, it was sure good of you folks to come out on a day like this. I hope you enjoy your stay. Thanks for coming.